Hare Krishna. Ego is not the problem. False ego is. Ego is the word ego, which is used in the Bhagavad-gita, is somewhat different from the way it is used in normal discussions. In normal parlance, the word ego refers to arrogance. A person who thinks too big about oneself. That person is said to be having a big ego. Now, in contrast with that, when the Bhagavad-gita uses the word ego, it uses that in that sense also at some times, but in a philosophical sense, it uses the word ego as referring to our foundational misconception of thinking ourselves to be the body. And even more than that, ego is the sense of I-ness. That I am, I, the sense of I-ness that is there. I am. Now what am I? Who am I? These are questions which need to be explored further to be answered properly. But the fact that I am is a fact of existence, and it has to be recognized appropriately as a fact of existence. So that recognition of our I-ness as a fact of existence is what the Bhagavad-gita acknowledges when it says that we are all souls who are parts of Krishna eternally. So now we are energies of Krishna, we are superior energy of Krishna. So it is said, first Krishna talks about material energy, and in that he includes ahankara. In 7.4 in the Bhagavad-gita, he says, Bhumirapo nalo vayu khammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtadha. So he says, Bhumirapo nalo vayu, that earth, water, fire, air, ether, all these are my separated material energies. And apart from these, here he includes ego also, ahankara. And then he says, apareyamitastvanyam prakritim viddhime param jivabhutam mahabaho yedam dharyate jagat. So he says, apart from this, there is also superior energy, which is the spiritual energy. And the spiritual energy is the energy that Krishna himself has demonstrated in this world in terms of the conscious living beings. So we are all actually those conscious living beings. So that means when Krishna is talking about higher identity, he is talking about something that is beyond the ego. And that means the problem is not the ego. The problem is the misidentification caused by the ego of the soul with something that is not. So there are certain schools of thought, certain philosophers who hold that our self-conception itself is an illusion, and liberation means dissolution of our self-conception. That means liberation means that the thing that I exist, that itself has to end, and we merge into a impersonal absolute, and thus our sense of independent existence ends, and that they conceptualize as liberation. However, if we see over here, Krishna talks about ego as a distinct entity which is material, and which is a part of the material body-mind, the material covering that the soul has, that has to be given up. But after having given up that, the para-prakriti continues to exist. Krishna comes back to refer to Sankhya later in the Bhagavad-gita, and he refers to the soul also again, and then he says, Mamaivam sho jiva loke jiva bhutah sanatanaha. He says in 15.7, Mamaivam sho, that the living entities in this world are my parts. And how are they parts? Sanatanaha, they are my eternal parts. So in this way, essentially what Krishna is stating here is that we as souls are eternal, and the problem is not our conception of that I exist. But when our conception of I am is not the problem. To think that I am the body, that is the problem. When we understand that I am the soul, I am an eternal part of Krishna, and I am meant to live eternally with Krishna, then that is not a source of problem. That is in fact a source of liberation for us. That is a source of eternal happiness for us, because when we learn to love Krishna and serve Krishna and offer our heart and life to Him, then therein we find lasting happiness. Therein we find perpetual fulfillment, and thus we go beyond our bound material existence to the liberated level of existence. So ego is not the problem, false ego is the problem. False ego is to think that I am the body. True ego is to understand that I am the soul, I am the part of God. I am meant to love and serve Him eternally. And when we understand this, then we are liberated from material existence. Thank you. Hare Krishna.